So this is a focus group interview, and when we talk about focus group interview, it's actually something which, as I said, is used for qualitative data collection. Now, the learning outcomes regarding this session, it is that participants will be able to explain the concept of focus group interview, differentiate between focus group interview and one-to-one interview, tell the types of focus group interviews, explain the process of focus group interviews, frame appropriate questions for conducting focus group interviews, and familiarize themselves on how analysis is done in researches using focus group interview. So let's try and understand what is focus group interview. Actually, focus group interview is a concept that has been borrowed from market research. It was used in marketing. It was used to find out the opinions of customers and their needs and stuff like that. So it was mainly used from, it has been taken from market research. And around 1990s, it was used in education for getting data for various researches. So there are many definitions of focus group interview. So I have gone through the definitions, and these are the keywords which explains what is focus group interview. When we talk about a focus group interview, it is a homogeneous group. Homogeneous group means that the group of people whom you are going to interview, they have a similarity in experiences, or some factors, there is some similarity which the researcher is interested in studying. So that could be maybe the age, the gender. So there could be various factors, and therefore it is a homogeneous group. It's a group which consists of 4 to 10 members. It's a small group. Now, the reason for having a small group is that each and every group member gets a chance to express their views, their opinions during the interview. If you have a larger group, there are chances that every member will not get an opportunity to speak or express their opinions, and therefore it is a small group which is there, which is of 4 to 10 members. It is led by a trained moderator. We will be discussing about the roles of the moderator in detail later. And whatever topic that is there, it is discussed, it is only a single topic. So there is a focus on the number of people and the topic, and therefore it is called as a focus group interview. There are some situations in which you can use focus group interview. It cannot be used for all types of situations. So let's have a look at the situations or the conditions that are required, and when should you use focus group interview. It is when you want your informants or your samples to share and compare experiences. So they could have different types of experiences, and they could share their experiences. For example, if you want to find out the experiences of students after they have been after a training program has been implemented on them. So you can have this focus group interview of just a focus students to get a feedback and to share and compare their experiences. Second thing is for developing and generating ideas. So maybe when you are in the process of preparing a program or preparing a product, you could have a focus group interview of the experts. So the experts give you inputs regarding how to develop the product, give you ideas. So for idea generation, focus group interview can be used. And also to explore issues of shared importance. An example over here could be that suppose students, they have again been exposed to a particular kind of teaching, method of teaching, and you can have a focus group interview of them to find out whether that method of teaching has helped them out in their learning. So it's a shared importance. It's the learning outcome is an shared importance. So it's also so if your research answers positively to all these questions, your research objectives, if it answers positively to these questions wherein you want to share and compare experiences, or you want to generate ideas, or you want to explore issues which are of shared importance, means of common importance, then you can use focus group interview. However, there are certain conditions under which you should not use focus group interview. That is when not to use focus group interview. In case you want to get information that is very sensitive, intimate information, something which people will not want to openly share in the presence of others. Please remember that the members of the focus group interview can also be strangers to one another. They may not know each other. So in such cases, if your research is related to something very personal, then it's better to avoid using focus group interview, because then they will not give you valid answers in front of a group of people. Next is if you want information represented quantitatively for prediction. For example, if you want to compare two groups, proper reliable comparison between two groups, you will have to use statistics because and for that you don't need to use focus group interview. For that you can use other tools. It could be rating scale or questionnaire, where you will be able to convert or the data into a more quantitative manner, and then you can use statistics to get a more reliable uh, output, which you can use for prediction. And the last one is also for solving problems and resolving issues. Why focus group interview is not useful over here? Because it has a time limit. Normally it is said that it's better not to go in for focus group interview for more than 2 hours. The duration, it should not exceed 2 hours. So there is a possibility that they may not be able to reach a solution in that period of time. So in such cases, you can have other techniques like focus group discussion, or you can have brainstorming, where there is not much of time to limit, and it can help in resolving issues or solving problems. So this is when not to use focus group interview. There is a difference. There are differences actually between one-to-one interview and focus group interview. So we'll quickly go through what are the differences between one-to-one interview and focus group interview. One-to-one interview is used when you want to probe an experience. So you're interested in the experience of that one particular person, and you want to go into depth regarding that experience. So that's when you use a one-to-one interview. Focus group interview, as I said earlier, that it is for generating ideas. So as it said, two heads are better than one. So you can come up with a number of ideas because you have a number of people in the group. When you want to, the next is when you want confidential information, go in for one-to-one interview, because then the interviewee will be open enough to share their information. Of course, you have to reassure them that their identity will remain confidential, and that the information is only for the research purpose. So confidential information, it's better to go for one-to-one interview. But in focus group interview, if you want to have a social opinion, group opinion regarding a particular phenomenon, or regarding a particular situation or event, then it's better to go in for focus group interview. For one-to-one interview, if the members or informants are very heterogeneous, that means they are very different from one another, it's better to go for one-to-one interview, because they might not have anything common to share or discuss or talk about. So that is why if it is a very heterogeneous group of informants, go in for one-to-one interview. But if it is a homogeneous group, then focus group interview is best used, because as I said, the gender or age. These are just two factors. There could be so many other factors, rural, urban. There's so many factors depending upon the objective of your research. So if it is a homogeneous group, go in for focus group interview. One-to-one interview, depending upon the research study, you will have the number of people that are there for the interview. Whereas in focus group interview, it is to be restricted to 4 to 10 participants. And as I said earlier, that we need to restrict the number of participants, because there's also a saying which says too many cooks spoil the broth. So we need to restrict it and give every participant a chance to share their opinions. Now we go on to setting up of the focus group interview. What are the things that you need to take into consideration? The first one is to obtain permission. Now, for example, if you want to conduct a focus group interview on school teachers, then obviously you will have to get the permission from the principal as well as the school teachers. Remember, you need to get permission even from the informants or the interviewees. Um, if you are taking interviews from school students, then the school parents, so you need to take prior permission. Then the timing of the interview, you will have to plan the timing of the interview in such a way that it is convenient for all the members. Not only that, since we are talking about in the educational scenario, it's better to avoid times when the examination times. So it's you have to be careful about the timings of the interview, and also restrict the interview time to only 2 hours. After that, it becomes an overload for everyone. So try and restrict it. Then incentives. You need to plan whether you need to give incentives. Now, incentives could be in any form. It could be also snacks or refreshments, or it could be in the form of money or learning experiences, or to find out, it could be an incentive. You could tell them that through this we will come to know what your peers are thinking about it. So different kinds of incentives you need to plan. The number of members and number of interviews. If there are more than 10 informants, it's better that you divide it into 2 interviews. So you could have seven if you've got 14 informants. So it's better to divide the interview, and that is why number of interviews. Also, suppose you are not very happy with the information that you have got in the first round of interview, you may go for another round of interviews. That is depending upon, because that normally happens in qualitative research, where the data you can keep on adding to the data, and as you keep on analyzing it. So that is a more flexible method of conducting research. So that's regarding number of members and number of interviews. Sending invitations. So either you will you decide whether you want to send the invitation via phone or via email. Now during this pandemic period, the interviews are going to be online. So using different online apps. So you will have to use email or phone in order to send the invitation. Then inform the purpose of the interview. The interviewees should be clear about what you are interested in finding out. There should be no surprises during the interview. Okay, so they should know what is the purpose of the interview, and you clear the purpose when you are taking permission from them regarding being a part of the interview. Then categorize the samples, homogeneous. So for example, if you have a little diverse sample which are having 2 different factors, for example, maybe gender, if that's what your research is interested in, then you can categorize all the female informants together for one interview and male informants together for the other interview. Location of the interview is also to be taken into consideration, which will be useful for the participants. It should be something which is convenient for the participants, and therefore location of the of the interview is very important. Then the equipments required. You may require different recording equipments, maybe audio equipments or video equipments. So that could be one of the things, or you may also have the equipments for of course audio and visual equipments that are there. Speakers would be there. Also what you might require are some kind of notebooks or pens and stuff like that, so you have to be careful and for doing it. Then circular sitting formation. The members should be sitting in a circular fashion to this thing for the interview session. And also you can use an assistant moderator. Um, this is to be done when you are you can have an assistant moderator, that is who's there in order to use the interview. Then the 12th one, what we are going to talk about the next is the moderator's role. The moderator's role is what we were talking about. A trained moderator is required for the focus group interview. So we have is that the qualities of a moderator. The moderator needs to be alert, and he should be distraction free. That means he should not get distracted. Alert, because he will need to point down and list down all the important points, anything that he observes during the interview, maybe the non-verbal cues, all those things. So he needs to be alert. He needs to create a friendly atmosphere. Uh, an open atmosphere is required during the focus group interview, so that all the interviewees will be able to give their answers clearly, and therefore there is no feeling of restriction regarding during the interview. Good questioning skill, and we will be discussing about the different types of questions that are there, how to frame the questions. So good questioning skill should be there by the moderator. He should use probing questions, questions which are going to give a lot of information from the respondents, that is to be there. And he should use pauses. Like for example, if the moderator keeps on talking, there is a chance that the respondents will not answer the questions because he's not getting a chance to answer. So after the question is asked by the moderator should take pauses, wait for the respondents to answer. He should be a good listener, listen to what the respondents are talking about, and also give short responses. That is, okay, yes, or even, because he should not be actually a part of the discussion or should not give responses. His his role is to ask questions, and therefore these are the roles of the moderator. We were talking about an assistant moderator. So what does the assistant moderator do? He or she has to arrange all the equipments and the room and make sure that the room is distraction free and has good lighting, good ventilation. He is the one who welcomes the participants. So the participants, whoever are there, can be welcomed by the assistant moderator. The moderator may also do it, who is also the researcher. But the assistant moderator welcomes participants. The assistant moderator takes notes, because later on, the notes of the moderator and the assistant moderators are compared. So the notes that they take down is also of the responses. Avoid joining in the discussion. Assistant moderator is actually a passive participant during the interview, and give an oral summary. Whatever has been answered, oral summary can be given at the end, and later on debrief and feedback to the moderator. This is done after the interview is done. wherein the moderator and the assistant moderator, they cross-check their notes just to find out if any of them have missed out anything, especially the moderator has missed out anything. So this is more of cross-checking. So these are the roles of the moderator and the assistant moderator. There are different types of focus group interviews. One is a single moderator, single focus group, that is single moderator with a small group. That is one type. The other one is a mini focus group, which consists of 4 to 5 respondents. Then dual moderator focus group with 2 moderators. So this could be a research where there are 2 researchers. So you can have 2 moderators who are there. And remote focus group, this could be teleconference or online. And this is what is mostly going to take place during this period of time, where you can use online mode of interviews for interviewing the respondents. So these are the main types of focus group. Now we come to the most important point, that is choosing questions. How do you frame questions? How do you choose questions? You need to choose open-ended questions. Questions like, what do you think of the whatever is your study that you're using? How do you feel about it? What did you best like about? Tell me your positive experiences with whatever, maybe online learning and things like that. So your questions, if you look at these questions, these are all open-ended questions where they will be able to give description. They will be able to describe their answers and explain their answers. Uh, Please avoid combining 2 or more questions together in one question, especially if the answers are contradictory. Like for one question, the answer is yes, and for the other question, the answer is no. So in such cases, it's better that you avoid putting 2 questions, 2 or more questions in one question. One idea, one question. That's the best way. Avoid yes, no questions. Yes, no questions will not give you description. And so that is best to be avoided. In case you need to use yes, no questions, then you need to ask them why, or you could paraphrase it by saying, think back and explain. uh, um, what were your experiences? How would you describe your experiences? Uh, can you talk about what happened at that particular time? So all these things like think back and explain, it makes the respondents actually, they realize that the answers need not be short. We are interested in a more descriptive answer. So things like this will help you to get more descriptive answers. There are different types of questions which are there when you are using a focus group interview. Um, like for example, you can also combine techniques and tools. You could give them a short rating scale, or you can even ask them to draw and then get them involved to discuss about it. This is just to bring about variation. Otherwise, it can become a bit monotonous. We are talking about interviews that may be for 2 hours. So just talking about it, just a discussion may become monotonous. So you can give them a rating scale where they rate, and then you have a discussion about it. So this can be done. And then you can also have a summary question. It's like, is that an adequate summary of your opinions, or would you like to add anything more? This is after a particular question. So you can have that. And final question you can have is, have we missed anything? Do you want to share anything more? So these are questions which, suppose the respondent wanted to answer or talk about a question which has already been answered or has already been asked, he or she may add their answers to those questions. So in such cases, you have these type of final questions can be asked. Now we go on to designing the focus group interview schedule. Now, in that, what you have to do is, first is the welcome. In the welcome, the moderator and the assistant, they introduce themselves. Then the overview of the topic, what is the topic for and what will the results be used for, this is what is spoken about. Then ground rules and assurances of confidentiality is given. That means to tell them that there is no right or wrong answers, and whatever are your answers will be kept confidential, and it will be used only for the research, so that you get valid answers and people will not feel hesitant to give you the answers. So these are some ground rules and assurances of confidentiality. This is how you start a focus group interview. And this is a schedule because you are planning out what will be there in the focus group interview. Continuing, then the questions based on objectives. So you have general to specific questions that are there. Then obtaining background information regarding the respondents' experiences, that is there, and end with the summary or final questions that we had seen before. These are the ways to design your, so this is a plan of your focus group interview. Let's have an sample of a welcome and instructions. How do you welcome and how do you give instructions? So you say, thank you for agreeing to participate in the discussion. I am so and so. Your views are very valuable and will be used for the purpose of this research only. Your identity will be kept confidential. We are interested in all your experiences and not the experience of a particular person. So you give a hint that we want all of you all to share your experiences. We just don't want one person to dominate and share their experience. We want experiences from everybody. So that's why we put in that instruction. Then I will be asking you questions about whatever is the topic. Feel free to discuss. I will not contribute to the discussion because I'm interested in what your opinion is. So I'm more interested. So because sometimes the interviewees may feel that why isn't the moderator joining in the discussion? So in such cases, just make it clear that I'm not going to talk much. I'm not going to join in because I'm more interested in your opinions. And then also that I will be keeping track of time. And also that's a subtle way of saying that in case we are going off the topic, I'm going to come back, bring back the interview into the topic, and also give them the instruction that you can ask me to repeat my question. And also inform them that you will be recording the discussion. So please speak one person at a time. If you are using audio recording, please give the instructions to the respondents that do not give non-verbal responses like nodding of head or things like that. That is not to be done. Give it orally. Yes, no, because then nodding of head will not get recorded orally. It might get recorded if you are using video recorder, but not orally if you're using audio recorder. And of course, you'll say that I will tell you about the topic. Please introduce yourselves. So this is a sample of welcome and instructions that you give for conducting a focus group interview. Now, there are some category of questions that has been given by Kreuger. There are like opening questions. These are opening questions which is there just to introduce the topic which is there. So you could have questions. Suppose you are interested in finding out regarding online learning. Okay. The burning question nowadays is that what do students think about online learning, considering the fact that the universities and colleges are expecting them to use their own laptops and their internet connectivity. So suppose that is your research topic. So your first question could be, as an opening question could be, what are your experiences with online learning? I'm just giving you an example of one question. There could be many more questions. Then there could be an introductory question regarding it, that for which subjects have you attended online classes? Then a transition question. Now the transition question is when you are going towards your topic, the key questions to your topic. So that could be is what do you think, what do you like about online learning, your positive experiences about online learning. And then you come to your key question that could be that how do you feel about being expected to use your own laptops and internet connections for attending the online sessions. So slowly, you can't jump to that question in the beginning. So you you warm up, and then you can come to the question, the key question. And of course, then is the final question, which is there, is there anything that was left out? Is there anybody else who would like to share anything more regarding their experiences of online learning? So these are the categories of questions that has been given by Kreuger. Now, there, once you have collected the data, then you need to do the analysis. Analysis of the data, of course, like in interviews, it requires a little bit of, it requires rigorous work done by the researcher, because you need to prepare transcripts. Now, when you're preparing transcripts, that is the answers to the questions that the respondents have given. So you have a question, and then you have to write down the answer. When you're talking about transcripts, you need to write word for word what that person has said. So if the person has says, mm, all those things also need to be put into the transcript. Okay. So, and also any kind of gestures that also can be put into the brackets. So this is what is known as transcript. So once you have done the transcript, in that you must include as much as details as possible. So this transcription is done by listening to the audio recording, to the video recording, and it can be done again and again, just to get every word, every so that you don't miss out on anything. And noteworthy quotes. There are certain quotes which people give, which you would like to include in your report. So you need to write those things down. Unexpected findings. There were some people who give very different responses. So you need to note them down. Now, once you are able to do this, the next thing what you have to do is that you have to prepare a table with every question. Now, for example, what do you think about, it was the first question. And P1, P2, P3, P4, these are the respondents. As we said that we are going to keep their identities anonymous. So their names are never mentioned. Okay. Now, in your own, when you're doing your analysis, you may use the names. But otherwise, you can put it as P1, P2, that is participant 1, participant 2, 3, 4. And then you write down their responses. That is a kind of a summary of what is their detailed response. And this is known as codes. So these are the codes that you have done. You have done a summary of their responses, but you need to be very careful when you're doing the summary of these responses, because you need to include all the important aspects. So this is known as codes, or it is also called as coding. So in this way, you have a code for question number 1, and these codes, then you have to keep finding similarities and reducing them into a theme, one theme that is there. So a theme that will represent all the answers or all the codes. So that is what you need to do. Then you do the same thing for question 2, where you have again all the codes, and then you go and have another theme. So for every question, you may have a theme. So I'm just giving you a screenshot from a research paper which was done by Bryant, a phenomenological study of preschool teachers' experiences and perspectives on inclusive practices. Now, if you see the diagram, see, I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of the content. I just want to give you an idea of how it is done and how it is seen in a research paper, so that if you read some more research papers, you will come to know what is the process of doing the analysis. So what has happened is that they had 9 themes have emerged. So most probably there were 9 questions. So 9 themes have emerged. Now again, this researcher has clubbed the themes together depending on their similarities. So again, the themes have been clubbed, and this is how it has been presented in the paper. Like for example, theme 2, outsiders do not understand the curriculum is the theme. So this has been this has come out from the codes that were there. And see over here, he has written over here, a person on the outside might not understand the curriculum that's being used. This is what the participant 1 has described. So he has given the answer, what the responses of the participant without disclosing the identity of the participant. The same thing he has done over here for participant 6, participant 3. He's not mentioned all of them, but these are the key responses. And he has also mentioned, he's given quotes. If you see, it is in quotations. This is the actual words that has been said by participant number 3. Okay, so you can have actual quotes. So this is when you're describing the, when you're writing the description regarding the themes in paragraphs. So when you're writing it in paragraphs, because the previous one was in diagrammatical form, then but when you're describing the diagram, this is what you give in paragraph forms. So again, going back to the themes. So once you have described all these themes, then the next thing that you need to do is then you need to categorize them. So all the themes are again put into categories, or they are known as components. So all these themes, 9 themes, he has been able to reduce them into 3 components. It requires a lot of reading, a lot of rereading, and yes, it requires a lot of work, because you need to keep on, make sure that you don't miss out on important aspects. Once the themes have been put, now this is the image of the actual research paper. So you'll see that over here, this is actually the components. So you describe each component. He's written the component over here, the name, and he has described it in a paragraph. So it is in a descriptive form. So in this way, the 3 components have been described. Then a discussion is done, a discussion which is done based on other researches that have been there. What are the common things? What were the differences in the results of previous research with your research? And then you give recommendations for further study, and then you give a conclusion. So this is how focus group interview, if you are using this as a technique, this is how you are going to represent it in your report. This is how it is written. So it is more on, of course you can use diagrams, but you also need to describe it in detail. That's what is given regarding the description. Now, analyzing and reporting, if we see the, I'm just going to give you an overall summary of it. So first things, you need to code your responses, converted them into themes, then components. Then after that, intercode reliability. This is where the assistant moderator comes in. So the moderator can share his or her analysis and find out whether the assistant moderator also agrees, or if you have more than one researcher or some other researchers, it can be given for just to validate. It's a kind of cross check, because it's a very subjective way of analysis. So this is just a cross check to increase the reliability of the results that are there. And of course, then is the conclusion. I would like to ask this question. This question, we can have a discussion about it later, is that in which part of your research study can you use focus group interview? We'll have a discussion after this session, during the question answer session. Just remember this question and start thinking about it. I'm going to run through what are the advantages of focus group interview. It helps to form attitude and opinion through social interaction. It's often seen that when you are in a group and people are expressing their opinions, there is a time when initially a respondent may not want to give their opinion, but when they see others are responding, then they too feel that, oh yes, I too had this thing to add. So it's a kind of when you see peers also expressing their opinions, this also helps the respondents think about it and come up with their opinions. highlights unique responses. There could be some unique responses that are different. So focus group helps in highlighting them. It gives a deeper understanding of the phenomenon as a social, in a social scenario with people around. So that's why it gives a more detailed insight about it. It provides also insights because you get various opinions of different people regarding the similar issue. So the topic, so it provides insights. It helps also to guess future expectations. That too can be done using focus group interview, and it complements and explains information that is obtained from other methodologies. For example, focus group interview can be used after you have used maybe a rating scale or a questionnaire, and you have got responses, and you find that there are some responses that are very, very different, or it's something that you would like to probe further also. So in such cases, you can collect those respondents and have a focus group interview and get their information just to validate. It's also to cross validate that whatever responses they've given in the questionnaire, was it valid? Did they really mean those responses? So it is a kind of data triangulation. You can use focus group interview as a data triangulation, where you have used other tools or techniques, and you can use focus group interview to validate the data. However, there are disadvantages. It's expensive and time consuming as compared to other qualitative evaluation procedures. It's expensive because especially if you need people to come and travel and meet you, and then you have to prepare all those equipments and the room and maybe snacks and things like that. So, and it's also time consuming because maybe questionnaire will take a few minutes to be completed, but of course focus group interview requires more time because it is more descriptive in nature, and it's hard to coordinate with everybody. It's difficult to see that everybody's timings are suitable or the place is suitable. So that requires a little bit of coordination. It's difficult to get unbiased sample. That becomes because you're using a homogeneous sample. And also what happens is that because it is face to face, still there could be a little bit of the people may not be very free to express themselves. So it's a bit difficult. It all depends upon the qualities of the moderator to prepare a very free environment where people will be willing to express their opinions. Reliability and thematic analysis and perceptions are difficult. As I said, we have seen the procedure. All participants may not they may not participate. I mean, all the respondents, again, it is up to the moderator who will be able to do it, and it's difficult to generalize because the population is small, and we cannot really say that it's going to be. And in qualitative research, it's rarely used for generalization, because for that you need statistics and normality testing, and that so that you can generalize to the population. You can say that it is related, whatever the responses or the results is related to this particular group of people, the focus group of people. See, so one way of doing this is that you can do a mixed method, because what happens in quantitative data analysis, you miss out on the responses of the minorities because we are only concentrating on the responses of the majority. Why not give voices to the minorities too, what they feel? So in that case, you can use mixed method where you have both quantitative and qualitative, because having said everything, focus group actually helps in capturing all the expressions of the viewers or of the respondents, which may not be done properly through quantitative researches. So it may not be meaningful if you convert it into numbers. That's what I mean. So if you can keep it as qualitative, then you will be able to give more justice. There are different online apps now that are there. You have Zoom, you can do your focus group interview on WhatsApp, on Skype, on Google Meets. And remember that the number of members are very small. So you can have that focus group interviews can be conducted even online. Okay, this is the references, and these are the references, and this was the study that I had quoted, which I had used. So please go through this research study, and the other references are all related to focus group research. And so I know all of you right now will be very confused because there are 5 chapters to be written, and how are we going to do it? 6 actually. And how are you going to write about all that and things like that? Don't worry. With hard work and persistence, I'm sure you all will be able to achieve your goal. So thank you.